Very much. Right, okay, before I introduce myself to you fully and tell a little bit about me and my story, I suppose, can I wish you all a very good afternoon and ask you how you're all feeling? Very well. Thanks for that overwhelming response. My name's Gavin Oattes. I own and run a company called Tree of Knowledge. Tree of Knowledge are a motivational and engagement training organisation. We're based in Fife. It's very rare you hear the words motivational and Fife in the same sentence, but it works for us. We've been there for a number of years now. We travel all over the UK, into parts of Europe working with all sorts of weird and wonderful organisations. And actually the bulk of the work we do is in education as well, but I'll come to that in a second. So I'm going to tell a little bit about me. I've been asked to come and tell you my story, which I always feel very strange about. I don't feel like I have a story, but I'll try and tell you a little bit about what I do. I'm 34. I know you're all looking at me now thinking, my God, he could be 21. Thanks. Thanks for your support. I live here in Edinburgh. I'm just about 10 minutes that way. Actually, I don't know if it's that way. I just thought it'd be cool to point out a window. I'm not from Edinburgh. I'm from the West Coast. I'm from a tiny little town called Troon. Anyone else from Troon? Never heard anyone react like that before. Are you from Troon? You're not, because I've met you before. You're not even from Scotland, are you? Nope. Why do you keep turning up at my events? Let's move on quickly. But we've got a few people who put their hand up from here. Do you mind me asking, what age are you? 22. No, not you. You didn't put your hand up, don't worry. I can talk to you if you'd rather. No. What age, sorry? 22. So can I just clarify, do you know me? Good, let's keep going. Okay, no, I left Troon when I was 18 and headed to Aberdeen University with absolutely no plan of ever going into business. It wasn't a goal. It was never a plan. I have no idea how I ended up running a business, but like I said, I'm going to try and explain this to you. I went off to university to train for 4 years to become a primary school teacher. I learned very quickly that I didn't want to be a primary school teacher. I learned very quickly that small children do in fact freak me out. They stink. And I hate them, so let's move on. Now, one or two of you looking slightly concerned. I don't actually hate small children. I have my own, which probably scares you more. My son turned 6 on Tuesday. His name is Cian. I found out recently that's the same name as one of the guys out of Westlife. Gutted. I wanted to call my son Optimus Prime, but I wasn't allowed. And I have a daughter called Ellis, who recently turned 2, so feeling very grown up at the moment. So grown up, in fact, I recently bought my second shed. Thank you. Can see the respect in your eyes. The only reason I bought a shed was to put my daughter in. That's a lie. We put her on the roof. She likes the view. That's another lie. But primary school teaching, an amazing job. I loved my time as a primary school teacher. I learned everything about how to run a business in running a classroom with 30 children in it. And I take all my inspiration from the work that I did with children. I take my daily inspiration from my own children. And I'll explain why again as we go. But I loved my time as a primary school teacher. You find yourself surrounded by the most creative people you've ever met in your entire life. And most of them are under the age of 10. And I always remember my first placement. I arrived at the school and I was met by the head teacher, and she stopped me and said, "Are you our student, son?" Being called son on your first day makes you feel very grown up. And I said, "Yes, that's me, lady." And she looked me up and down, she went, "Male." I didn't know if I was meant to show myself at that point. So I did. That was the end of my career. It was very short, the career. Now, it was at this point I said to her, "Yes, I'm a male." And she said, "Right, don't you forget your first rule of teaching, son." And I said, "What's that?" And she looked me right in the eye and said, "Don't smile till Christmas." And I stood for a second thinking, don't smile till Christmas, what does that mean? Why would you offer this piece of advice to somebody? And then I came to the conclusion, it's going to be a joke. It's going to be hilarious. She's going to deliver such a funny punchline that we'll embrace. We might even high-five, it's going to be that funny. At which point she turned and walked away. And I learned quite quickly that don't smile till Christmas is a very commonly offered piece of advice in the world of education. It's a truly awful piece of advice. So that was my first rule when I started my own or going into business, was to make sure that I smile every day until Christmas and beyond, because I'm mental. And I got over that quite quickly, and I was asked to go and wait in the staff room, and I got myself into the staff room, and there was a lady came up to me. I was very, very pleased to be in a staff room. I'd never been in a staff room before. And as a lady walked up to me and said, "Excuse me, you're sitting in Anne's chair." I thought, we've got chairs, brilliant. So I moved, and somebody else told me to go and get a tea or a coffee. Now I have a caffeine allergy. I don't drink tea or coffee, but I was 18, straight out of school, and a teacher had told me to make a coffee. So I went and made my coffee, and I'm standing stirring it thinking, I'm going to die. I haven't even made it into the classroom yet, and I'm actually about to die. But then in walked Mary Poppins. Every school has a Mary Poppins. Every business has or should have a Mary Poppins. I'll tell you who they are. They're a joy. That's who they are. They're the people that float around, and I don't mean pretending to be busy. I mean literally, they float. They're magical. They have rays of light that come out their face. They're brilliant. We should all be a Mary in our business. And this lady floated up to me and said, "Are you Gavin?" And I looked her right in the eye and said, "Are you Mary?" She was confused. So I said, "Yes, I'm Gavin." And she's like, "Come on, you're with me in the nursery." And off we floated down the corridor together. And I started panicking, thinking, she said nursery. I'm here to train as a primary school teacher. Why am I going to a nursery? 5-year-olds scare me. 3- and 4-year-olds are going to terrify me even more. But of course, all of a sudden, I found myself going into the nursery, and I thought back to when I was in nursery. I was very different from all the other 3- and 4-year-olds. I was 11. And I saw the sand area, I saw the water area, I saw the reading corner, and I began to think, I'm going to be all right. And I'll be honest with you, see that morning, I had an absolute ball. I played, and I played, and I played. And then the kids arrived at 9 o'clock. And we kept playing. We kept playing up until 11:15, where we had to stop and go outside. Do you know why? Because it was playtime. You've joined us at the perfect time, mate. We've just all finished our song. So if you would like to... the last person had just finished the final note before you came in there. So if you want to come up and sing yours. No? Okay. It was worth a shot. And so I had this wonderful experience in the nursery that morning. And... when it came to break time, the kids are dragging me out the side door to go and see their new climbing frame. And the teacher's saying, "No, Gavin, come to the staff room and meet your new colleagues." And I'm thinking, but there's a new climbing frame. But I ended up in the staff room, and when I finally sat down, I discovered that I was in a place of work where I was surrounded by a group of individuals that did nothing but bitch and moan about their jobs. Now, I'd like to point out most primary schools are not like that. It's just the first time I was ever in a proper place of work. They sat and bitched and moaned about their jobs, bitched and moaned about each other, bitched and moaned about the boss, bitched and moaned about the kids' families. And I sat there at just turned 18 years of age, looking around the room at these people thinking, why are you here? Why did you choose to do a job that makes you feel like this, act like this, speak like this, think like this? And I was appalled. And I sat there thinking, well, why am I here? And I'd like to tell you why I chose teaching originally. I chose teaching to make a difference. I used to think that was really cheesy and embarrassing. And then I learned it is cheesy and embarrassing. However, I believe that there is no reason other than to make a difference to go into teaching. There's no reason to go into teaching other than to make a difference. I said it right the second time. And in fact, I'm that person that believes there's no reason to do any job other than to make a difference. There's a piece of research came out in September of last year that has basically proved that as a human being, if you don't believe that what you do for a living makes a difference to at least one other person's life, then it's not actually possible for you to experience true happiness in your job. I get it. I live by it. I support it. I stand by that 100%. And I sat there thinking, am I going to stick this out for the rest of my life? And the answer was, I have no idea. 4 years later, graduated with an honours degree in primary teaching and went on to teach for about 2 years. At the end of that 2 years, I went on a workshop that I didn't want to go on. I don't know if you've ever been on a workshop that you don't want to go on before. It's difficult. It was called Putting the Fun Back in the Staff Room. being run by a company that I'd never heard of before called Tree of Knowledge. So I'm not actually the founder of Tree of Knowledge. I'll explain how we got to where we are now and what happened. And I thought there's going to be somebody coming in here to tell me how to do my job. But that's not what happened. I laughed at times, and I thought quite deeply at times about myself and my career. This guy stood there at the end, an amazing guy, and he said, "See if you hate your job." And I thought, well, I don't hate my job. I love my job. I just wonder if there's something else out there I should be doing. Then he said, or maybe you don't hate your job, you love your job, but you just wonder if there's something else out there you should be doing. So, my God, this guy's amazing. He says, "I've got some groundbreaking advice for you." And he leant forward and went, "Leave." He said, "Go away, let the rest of us get on with what we love doing, get a smile back on your face, and find something that makes you happy." And I distinctly remember sitting at that point thinking, oh, she should leave. This one here. And moany face over here should go while she's at it. And I realised I was starting to pick people off. And I thought, that's not fair. And I realised it was me. I had to leave my job and go try something else. So I resigned from my job in teaching that day. I wrote a letter of resignation in crayon. They nearly got it in plasticine or contemporary dance. Thank you. Just giving you some of you an image that you could have done without today. And I went home that night and explained to my soon-to-be wife, of course, that I had been forced to leave my job. And phoned the guy that was running the workshop that night, told him it was amazing. And he said, that's really great to hear that you enjoyed it, so how can I help you? And I said, "You got any jobs, mate?" And that's what happened. And I was brought on in Tree of Knowledge to create a whole series of workshops for teenagers based around mindset, motivation, confidence, fun, creativity, and humour in the classroom. All the things that are so often overlooked nowadays because we're so driven by attainment and by targets and by passing your exams. Yeah, it's important. There's way more important things in life than that. And it all grew arms and legs. We started working more and more with teachers, more and more work with parents. And then 5 years ago, for all the right reasons, I led a management buyout at Tree of Knowledge. It was the 1st of March 2009. The recession had just taken hold, and I was told I was mental. We were told, don't go to the bank, they won't lend you money, especially RBS. So we went to RBS, and they gave us some money. It was kind of easy, if I'm being honest. You've got to ask. And we took over Tree Knowledge and we started again. Some people left our business, some people joined our business. We made loads and loads of mistakes. We're now 5 years down the line and we're bigger, stronger and better than we've ever been in the last 10 years. And I absolutely love what I do. And like I said, I take all my inspiration from 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds because they know how to run a business. Trust me, they do. Every business we work with, every school we work, everyone's talking to us about their challenges at the moment, the challenges we're faced with. The problem with challenges is they used to be magic. They used to be brilliant until 15 years ago when we were told that we had to replace the word problems with challenges. And all of a sudden, when people are faced with challenges now, we get scared. It's a negative thing. No, I assure you, you want to go into business, see at times, it's going to be shit. It is. I wasn't going to swear today, but everyone else swore, so I thought, get away! Never said that in a presentation in my entire life. But like I say, everybody else swore today, so I thought it must be cool. And I can assure you I'm not cool. And it was, so it's one of those things where I take all this inspiration from these kids because they just get life. They just do. You know, you think back to when you're 7 years of age and your teacher handed you a reading book that you'd read the year before. How did that make you feel? Well, I'll tell you how it made the 7-year-olds feel the first time I made that mistake. Furious. They were furious with me. Why? Because at the age of 7, you want nothing more than to be moved up a reading level. You want nothing more than that than for your classmates to see, to hear, and to acknowledge that you've been moved up a reading level. And you want nothing more than that than to go home that night to your mums and dads where you can hand them that book and you can see that look of pride on their faces. It's wonderful. The other thing that always amazed me about being a primary school teacher, it was those moments when I'm sat at my desk doing my job. They're all doing their own thing in their groups, and before you know it, there's a queue beside you. A queue of children with a great big smile on their face and an open book in their hands, and they're usually saying something to you along the lines of, I'm finished, what's next? It's like a need to learn. It's a need to progress, to develop, to embrace the moment, always. It's extraordinary how at that age we have such a passion for learning. The problem, of course, with being that age is we grow up. We get older. We become sensible. Society gets a hold of us and turns us into a very different type of person. The problem is, I believe that many of us through our teens in this country lose something really special. Not that. And the only way, I can see it on your faces, the only way I can describe it is that wee piece of magic. It's that wee piece of magic that we're all born with. It's a natural thing. I see it in my own kids every day. I'll give you an example. Just before my son's 5th birthday, it was 4 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and my son came running into our room shouting "Dad" as loud as he possibly could. I got the fright of my life. I leapt up out my bed and I was like, "What is it?" And he ran right into the room and went, "I know why they're called eyeballs." And he just stood like this. 4 o'clock in the morning, at that age, irrelevant, doesn't matter. What happened? He woke up because he had a moment of learning and a little moment of discovery. And he did what every other 4-year-old would do. He shared it. He shared it with everybody he could. We're told in business constantly to go and share best practice. How many of you are actually sharing best practice right now? How many businesses actually make time to share best practice? 4-year-olds do it every day because they know how to do it better than any of us. I'll give you another example of how they see the world. We were sitting having dinner one night. In fact, we do that most nights in our house. And I'm from Troon. And there was broccoli on the plate, and I'm kind of shoving it around thinking, I don't mind broccoli, I'd just rather not eat it. And I'm shoving it around thinking, God, I'd rather not eat this. And Cian turned around to me and he went, "You should eat your greens, Dad." I said, "Thanks, Cian." And he said, "And anyway, Dad, broccoli's great fun." I'd never heard this sentence before. He said, "It can be stuff, Dad." And I thought, one step ahead of you, you're going to tell me they look like little trees. But he took it in a whole new direction, because he was 4. He picked up his bit of broccoli and went, "Look, Dad, this piece represents summertime." And then he went, "In fact, no, autumn." Genius. Clearly takes after his mum. Now, they just know at that age how to see life and how to embrace the moment. And business is like that. Starting a business is like that. It's all here and it's all here. It's heart and soul stuff. It has to feel right. And kids just feel it in the moment and it's brilliant. Even in tough times. And by the way, as I've said, running a business, it's not all singing, all dancing all the time. It is tough, and you have your sleepless nights, and you'll sit all night for weeks on end trying to get something fixed, and it'll feel like it's not working, and then one day it just clicks. But even in the toughest of times, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds, they just change it. They fix it for us, the grown-ups. They can take that whole situation, flip it on its head, and make it okay, and we need to remember how to do that. I'll give you an example. 20th of March 2012. 2 years ago tomorrow, I lost my dad. My dad was fighting against pancreatic cancer. And of course, losing a parent at the best of the times is rubbish. Of course it is. But over time, it gets a bit easier. But then came Christmas 2012, and there we are, sat round the table in my mum's house with that big empty chair that's never been empty on a Christmas day for me, ever. And it felt weird, it felt awkward, and the reason it felt weird and awkward is because we were being sensible. We were being grown up. Nobody wanted to talk too much about my dad, might upset my mum. Nobody wanted to be celebrating Christmas too much, might upset my mum. Mum's in the kitchen at this point, by the way, doing everything on her own because she felt she had to prove to the world that she could now do it on her own, even though she couldn't. However, she's an ex-PE teacher from the heart of Glasgow that smokes cigars and no one messes with Irene. She eventually came through, sat down, and there we are, sat around the table, and it was still weird. It didn't feel like Christmas. Cian wasn't prepared to stand for this. Actually, technically that's not true, because he then stood up. He stood up and started doing this to the table. He said, "I'm sad as well, you know." And you could see the grown-ups kind of going, "Shh, don't upset your gran." And I thought, no, he's doing the right thing. And I said to him, "What are you sad about?" He said, "I miss my grandpa." I said, "I miss him too." "What do you miss about him most?" And he said, "Never mind that, Dad. Do you want to see me draw an apple?" Not what I was expecting him to say. But seeing that one sentence of "never mind that, Dad, do you want to see me draw an apple?" He took that whole situation, flipped it on its head, put a great big smile on everyone's face. We all burst out laughing. Mum went and got a notepad of paper. Cian went and got his crayons out of his Christmas stocking. And do you know what we did? We drew the best goddamn apples you've ever seen in your life. So see if you're ever having a tough time in business. See if you're ever upset about something. See if you're ever angry about something. Go draw an apple. It's the best piece of business advice you've heard all day. That's maybe not true. But go and draw an apple, and you'll be amazed at the smile it puts back on your face. Now, there'll be people in here who won't do it. That's fine. But I know there'll be people in here who will do it. And like I say, you'll be amazed at the smile it'll put back on your face. And do you know who I learned that from? I learned that from a 4-year-old child, because they just know how to get it right. Cian started school in August. Very excited, so he was. In Edinburgh this year, a lot of the schools started on a Friday, which is a bit odd. Primary 1, you go for 2 hours and then you're home. So he was home at lunchtime on a Friday, and it was now the weekend. He was like, I could get used to this, Dad. 2 hours and that's it. What a great working week. And see, on the Monday that week, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning to find Cian stood beside me in his full school uniform. I was like, Cian, pal, you don't start until Friday. And he went, I know. I said, so what are you doing? And he went, I'm practicing, Dad. Do you know, he practiced on Tuesday as well. He practiced on Wednesday. He practiced on Thursday. On Friday, we had to wake him. He forgot he was going to school. But that's not the point, right? It doesn't matter. When he finally got up, he got his uniform on, and he came running into our room. He came thundering into our room. And I said to him, Cian, I've never seen you this excited before. And he said, Dad, I have never been this excited in my entire life. And I'll tell you this, Dad, I've been alive for 5 years. I said, show me how excited you are, Cian. And he went, easy. I am this much excited. And it got me thinking, I wonder how many other people wake up every morning this much excited. Because I can tell you this right now. See, since I found what I want to do in life, see, since I found a job that I am unbelievably passionate about, I've been this much excited every single morning. How many of you wake up every day this much excited? How many of you wake up every morning thinking you're this much excited? Not just that, how many of you woke up this morning this much excited but ran into someone else's room to tell them about it? Because the reality is, there's not many people in the world wake up feeling like that, because they do jobs that they dread. They do jobs that make them unhappy. They might have days where they feel better, they enjoy some of their job. But can you imagine if you woke up every single day with the same fire in your belly that you had when you were 4? Can you imagine what you and your business would actually be capable of? It'd be extraordinary. It'd be absolutely extraordinary. Can you imagine what we could do in education this year? This is what my business is about. Albeit we work in corporate and education, it's about encouraging people to wake up every morning with that fire in their belly and reminding them of the importance of fun at work. People have forgotten learning is fun. It has to be fun every single day. School should be the most enjoyable time of our entire life. Teenagers at the moment are telling me that they're bored and they're fed up. It's not right. People in businesses and schools and colleges and unis are telling me they're bored and fed up. What's going on? Get that wee piece of magic back, get that fire back in our bellies, and it's extraordinary what we start to be able to achieve. Different types of fun at work. There's fun at work that comes from play. It's a function of the human brain. We need to play. How many of you play at work? When was the last time you had a game of TIG? Next time you see some of your pals, or next time you're at work or at college or at uni, walk up to them and say to them, yeah, how are you doing today? Yeah, TIG, you're it, and run. Watch their face. They might join in, they might not. Have a game of hide and seek. Might never find some of your pals again. We play hide and seek at Tree of Knowledge. I'm not going to lie to you and say we play it all the time, because we don't. But we play it as often as we can, and I'd like to tell you why we play hide and seek. It's wonderful. It's great. It's hilarious. It's absolutely magic. We have a sandpit in our office now. Every company needs a sandpit. That's the first thing you need to buy for your office. Phones, what do they count? Get yourself a sandpit with spades and buckets and all sorts. I've just realised I'm being flashed red here. I do apologise. I was looking at the screen waiting for it to change colour, but it didn't. It's the wee light at the bottom. Now I get it. So, get yourself a sandpit. They're fantastic. Next time you have a meeting with a proper potential client, they'll be sitting there staring at you in the eye. Your sandpit will be over here, and as they're talking to you, they'll start doing this, and all of a sudden they'll stop, and you'll say to them, do you want to take 5 minutes? And they'll go, do you mind? Take photos of it, fire out on Facebook and Twitter. That's what we do. And then they phone you that night and say, can you take those photos off of Facebook and Twitter? Guys, we spend I'm just about to finish, by the way. We spend a third of our life sleeping. We spend a third of our life at school and then at work. It's 2/3 spent sleeping, schooling and working. 2 years of our life sat at a red light in a car. 1 year looking for lost objects, some more than others, I'm sure. 2 years in the toilet, hopefully not all at once, that'd be agony. Imagine how numb your legs would be. You've all been tweeting from the toilet, you know what I'm talking about. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. Apparently we spend 3.7 hours a day now watching television. It's mental. Add it all up and you're left with the tiniest amount of time for you to go and do whatever it is that you actually want to do. You want to go set up a business? You get your arse off your chair and you go make it happen. It's a very famous question. If there's 10 birds sitting on a washing line and 5 decide to fly away, how many are left? Say again?
10.
Why 10?
Because they didn't actually fly away.
Correct. They didn't actually fly away. They only decided they were going to fly away. The whole point being, how often in life do you decide you're going to do something new, different, scary, exciting, healthy? You don't actually get round to doing it. Now the answer is 10. It's been 10 for about 100 years. I disagree now. I don't think it is 10. I think it's 9. Because there's always one. And do you know what? See the people who go make a success of their business? That's that one. Hope you have an amazing adventure in life. Thanks for your time. Cheers.